Hello, New York Giants fans, and welcome to your Valentine's Views podcast for this Monday morning. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. We have a post-mortem today on another disappointing home effort by your Giants in a 17-7 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Yet another game in which the Giants had an opportunity to win, could have won, maybe should have won, and didn't win. And here to help me break it all down, as we always do the day after Giants games, good, bad, or indifferent, is Big Blue Views Tony DelGenio. Morning, Tony. How are you?
I'm okay, but yeah, post-mortem is apt. This is going to be something like an autopsy.
Yes, and we'll just tell everybody now. We're probably two grumpy old men this morning. You know, we were talking off air, and Tony, I think you might have squeezed in 5 hours of sleep last night. I squeezed in 3 hours of sleep in a hotel room where I still am. So if we're grumpy, then it's not just bad Giants football. It's lack of sleep for a couple of old guys who should know better. anyway, anyway, Tony, let's just start with, yet again, you look at this New York Giants team, and yet again, this was a winnable game where, to me, they made the opponent look better than it is. This is a team just like the Dallas game, when Dallas came in with the worst run defense in football. The Cincinnati Bengals came into MetLife Stadium with the second worst defense in the NFL, giving up 29 points a game. And the Giants could only grind out one touchdown, which, I mean, well, at least they now have a MetLife Stadium touchdown. But really, a very, very disappointing effort from the Giants on offense.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up the Dallas game. We can throw out the Minnesota game. Okay, obviously they were terrible in the Minnesota game, but Minnesota is doing something this season that no NFL team has really figured out yet. They're making everyone look bad. So I'm perfectly happy to throw that opening week loss out and not even think about it anymore. But yeah, you mentioned the Dallas game and now this game, and to your point, it's like the other team shows something to the Giants that they're not expecting, and the Giants aren't able to adjust to it. And that's something that really bothers me. In the Dallas game, supposedly it was that the offensive line was unsuccessful in their run blocking because they said the Dallas defensive line wasn't doing what they expected them to do. And I don't really understand why, after you've had, a quarter or a half of seeing that, why you can't make halftime adjustments and then start doing something different. Last night, Cincinnati, a poor defensive team, looked like the best defensive team in the NFL. And the reason was that they were bringing their safeties down and playing everyone within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage and basically daring the Giants to throw deep, daring the Giants to throw over their heads. And the Giants, tried it once or twice, couldn't complete the passes. And basically that was it. And then they spent the rest of the evening dinking and dunking, underneath the coverage and getting a few yards here and there and not being able to sustain drives. And so I have to admit, I don't understand the inability to make a change at halftime that's going to get you better results on this team.
Yeah, Brian Daboll says all the time that it's not necessarily about halftime. He says you're trying to adjust all throughout the game. And yet, I don't know if this one was similar to Dallas in that way, Tony. I just thought, to be honest, I just thought that the Giants just didn't play well offensively. I didn't know that it was or I didn't feel like it was anything specific, that the Bengals were doing. Honestly, I think that we might as well get right into it. For me, everybody loves to look at quarterback one-loss records and this and that and the other thing. And I always say, not every loss is on a quarterback. You can't always pin the one-loss record on the quarterback. For me, as much as I have defended Daniel Jones, and I will still sit here and say, I thought he played pretty good football in the last 4 weeks leading up to Sunday night. For me, the difference in the football game on Sunday night was, as well as the Giants defense played, there were maybe 3 plays that Joe Burrow made that were difference-making plays. A long throw to Jamar Chase, a long third down throw. I'm not sure if it was to Eric All or Andre Yosivash. I don't remember. I think it was Yosivash.
The end of the game. Right.
And that one extended a drive late in the game when the Giants needed the football, led to Cincinnati's last touchdown. And of course, the 47-yard touchdown run, where he recognized the Giants defense getting out of its rush lanes, parting like the Red Sea, with no defensive backs on that side of the field because they were in man-to-man coverage. And of course, since the rushers on that side abandoned their responsibilities, there was nobody there. So on the flip side of that, there were 3 or 4 plays to be made that Daniel Jones didn't make, and one that he made in the red zone that was disastrous. So for me, the clear difference in the football game last night is quarterback play.
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, although the first touchdown in the game that you alluded to was a breakdown by the defense, and props to Joe Burrow for recognizing that. I mean, he's not a running quarterback, but he recognized that and realized he could make hay. So that's one of the reasons why he's one of the great quarterbacks in the game, is that he has that awareness that a lot of other quarterbacks don't. But overall, I thought the defense played great last night. I mean, that's a very, very potent offense, and they held them to 10 points until the last minute of the game. And the reason for this loss is clearly on the Giants offense, and within that offense, I would say the majority of the blame goes to Daniel Jones. I thought he just played a terrible game last night from start to finish. And sometimes it's, I mean, I think more than anything else, it was the interception. You're on the opponent's 14-yard line. It's first down. You don't have to make a great play. You don't have to do anything risky. And apparently he was just trying to throw the ball out of bounds and didn't get to do it because his arm got hit. But in a situation like that, take the sack, or throw the ball down at the ground or something like that. Don't try to throw the ball over an on-rushing defensive lineman. And he has lapses in judgment like that after 6 years, you just shake your head and say, you just can't be doing something like that. You have to live to play another down. And but on top of that, I mean, he was short arming the ball to a lot of his receivers last night. On the rare occasions that he did try to go deep and go over the top of the defense, he was back to overthrowing the receivers again. And I'm always hesitant to claim this as an outsider, just watching a TV version of the game, but there are key plays where it looks like he's trying to force the ball to his first read when maybe there's a second read that was open. And I thought on one of the key fourth down plays, where he tried to force it into Slayton. He might have tried to go to Wandale, who was out there on the edge. Yeah, I don't know whether that's possible or not, but just at every step along the way, it seemed like he was flustered by what the Bengals were doing on defense, and just didn't know how to play smart football.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly, I'm not sure I would agree that he was short arming a lot of balls. He did short hop one throw to Darius Slayton. What I will say about Jones is way back when the Giants drafted Daniel Jones back in 2019, Matt Waldman of the rookie scouting portfolio, who's been really, really good to me at Big Blue View. He comes on the podcast a lot. Matt said to me, he called Daniel Jones a robo quarterback, meaning basically, and his meaning for that was Daniel Jones can do exactly what you tell him to do on a given play. He can do exactly what you tell him to do. And if that first read is open, he can hit that first read and make that play. And the problem is Daniel Jones, 6 years into his career, is still that one read quarterback for the most part. On the play to Slayton last night, what I will say is, and I don't know the play call, I don't know exactly where he was supposed to go with the football, but knowing Jones' history, I am relatively certain that is where the football was supposed to go based on the play design. So that is where it went, because that is where he was expected to throw it. He thought he could get the ball into Slayton, and he didn't look elsewhere. The defender made a good play. There were clearly, when you look at the images on social media, clearly there was another place he could have thrown the ball. But that's what Daniel Jones is. If he can throw the ball to the first read, he's throwing it to the first read. And look, I've defended Jones, over the years. And as the season unfolds, I will continue to defend him when he plays well. There are times when he does play well. There are times when the Giants are able to scheme that first read open. There are times when guys, will make a play for him. Malik Neighbors has made a couple of plays for him so far this year. And we have to recognize that Neighbors wasn't there last night, but the interception, as you said, the interception is unforgivable for a guy 6 years into his NFL career, because first of all, you don't throw that ball out the back of the end zone down the middle of the field. You don't even try that. You throw the ball out the sideline somewhere, or you throw it into the ground out somewhere beyond the line of scrimmage. Even if you take the sack or take an intentional grounding, you don't try to airmail it out the back of the end zone down the middle of the field, especially when you see that rusher coming. Even if he takes a sack there, it's still, a 45, 46-yard field goal that, as we figured out, Greg Joseph probably would have missed. But still, you just don't do that. And the frustrating thing, Tony, is you live with that if it's a rookie quarterback. If you're the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams made a horrible throw in that game the other day that should have been a touchdown that turned into an interception. But you live with that because he's a rookie. If, Drake May made his debut the other day and he wasn't perfect. I think he threw a couple of interceptions, but he also threw 3 touchdown passes, which is foreign territory for Daniel Jones these days. But, he gave Patriots fans some hope. And, Even Bo Nix, the Denver Broncos aren't scoring a lot of points, but for the most part, Bo Nix has been safe with the football, or he's been good enough, to let Denver's defense win games so far this year. But the problem is, you look at a mistake like that and you think, that's a guy who's in his 6th year in the league. That just can't take place.
Yeah, and again, to me, the key thing about that play, it's first down, right? You've got at least 2 more chances, and maybe 3, depending on the circumstance, to get what you want to get on that drive. First down, there is absolutely no reason for you to risk anything. And that's the judgment part of it, right? I mean, there's the mechanics part of it, and how well he throws the ball, how much arm talent he has, how accurate his throws are, and things like that. Those are just kind of God-given gifts that particular quarterbacks have or don't have. But judgment is something that any decent quarterback has to have. And when you're in the red zone and it's first down, you never do something that might put the ball at risk. You just say, "Oh, this play isn't working. Let's get the ball on the ground and go back and try second down." And I think that's the thing. If that play happened on third down, I wouldn't have felt as bad about it, because you'd say, "Okay, well, he's trying to do something," but or fourth down or whatever. But on first down, it's just inexcusable that you risk something like that, and then you see the consequences of it. So I just don't get that for someone who's been in the league as long as he has.
No, and as I said, I will defend Daniel Jones when he plays well enough to give the Giants an opportunity to win. And last night he didn't do that. He more or less took away an opportunity for the Giants to win last night. And and that's just what it comes down to, Tony, is we're 6 years in, we're still talking about Daniel Jones. What is he? What is he not? What's he going to be? And look, this is what Daniel Jones is. He's going to be good enough sometimes. He's not going to be good enough other times. And the frustration of a lot of this is the New York Football Giants are 2-4. They could, I won't say easily, but with the turn of a few plays, they could be 5-1. And they probably, all things considered, probably should be 4-2. Because take your pick out of the games against the Commanders, Cowboys, and Bengals, but they probably should have come out on the winning end of 2 out of those 3 games. And it's insanely frustrating. And I think I was talking about this with someone last night. I think we just have to recognize that this is what Daniel Jones is. And we're really, to me, in essence, we're killing time right now with Daniel Jones as quarterback for the New York Giants. We see another example last night of, yet again, why there probably has to be a new quarterback, in MetLife Stadium for the New York Giants next year, because the ceiling is what it is, and the narrative is what it is, and the frustration is what it is, and I don't think any of it's going to change, I'm not sure there's hope that it changes until there's somebody new playing quarterback for the Giants, and it's not Drew Lock.
Right. And I think the leash on him is extremely short already. And I think there's some question given the injury guarantee in his contract, how long they'll go with him before they sit him down. But he's now had 6 games and he's played a couple of good ones. And you see the way he played in Seattle last week, and you say, okay, well, you know what? It's starting to happen. And I think that's the frustrating, I think, thing to a fan, is that you can see how well he played in Seattle against a defense that's better than the Cincinnati defense, considerably better than the Cincinnati defense. How well he played in that game, and you say, okay, he's finally starting to figure it out, and look at what he's able to do against a good defense. Because in that game, yeah, the Giants only had 29 points, but realistically, they should have had 31 points if not for the fumble at the goal line. They would have the offense would have put up 31 points in that game against good defense on the road. And you say, wow, okay, this is an offense that can really start to do something now that they're getting better blocking, and they have promising looking running backs, and a star rookie wide receiver. But and I don't know whether it would have been much different last night if Malik Neighbors was on the field. Maybe Seattle wouldn't have brought their safeties down so close to the line of scrimmage. I'm not sure, but the fact is that even without him, you should be able to put up 17 to 20 points on a defense like Cincinnati's, a defense that's giving up 20 some odd to 30 some odd points every week to its opponents. And to not only not be able to do that, but to not even be able to come close to doing it, right? It's they didn't even have many drives where they got down anywhere near scoring territory. They were just getting on the field and then getting off the field on fourth down a lot of the game. And so that's the part that I think makes you think that we are within weeks of seeing the end of Jones as the Giants starting quarterback, unless something really dramatic happens in these next few weeks and we see something that we've only seen sporadically to date.
We ride this roller coaster from week to week. Last week was good. This week is bad. And you just, the body of work, the 5.5-year body of work is there. Daniel Jones at times can do things. He had a wonderful 2022 season, had a nice stretch here for the last few weeks. Didn't get it done last night. The body of work just isn't good enough. The body of work over that period of time just isn't good enough. And Tony, let's move off Jones specifically. And another source of frustration from last night is honestly what went on in the NFC East all day on Sunday. The Giants ruined a great day in the NFC East for Giants fans. I'm sorry, but it's a ton of fun to watch the Dallas Cowboys suffer and get pounded at home, and watch Jerry Jones squirm after the game and have to answer questions about whether he's going to pick up the phone and call Bill Belichick. And Dallas is not a good football team. They're 3-3. They're not a good football team. They're not better than the Giants. And they've beaten the Giants. They're not better than the Giants. The Commanders lost a game yesterday. And again, that's another team the Giants shoulda, coulda, woulda beaten. But they're sitting there at 4-2. The Eagles had to fight like crazy to beat the Cleveland Browns. And then I don't know what planet Nick Sirianni lives on. I really don't know what planet Nick Sirianni lives on. But to go and trash talk fans the way that he did and pound his chest and more or less look like he was bragging about, look at how great we are. We just beat the Cleveland Browns. Come on, Eagles. This is the guy who represents your franchise. This is the guy who sits at the head of the table, more or less, and he represents your franchise that way. But the point is, the NFC East is right there. And the Giants have missed opportunity after opportunity after Sunday night football opportunity to make themselves relevant and put themselves right in the middle of it. And if I had hair, I'd want to pull it out.
Yeah, it's there for the taking. The Giants could not only be sneaking into a playoff spot this year, they could be winning the NFC East outright if they were playing competent football most of the time. And instead, they've, as you say, they've given away 3 games. And it's not outrageous to say that they could be 5-1 right now. Not that they should be 5-1 because the ball bounces in different ways, but there's no excuse for them not to be at least 4-2 right now and either be tied for the division lead or in the division lead if one of those wins that they should have gotten that they didn't get was the Washington game, and so they could be leading the NFC East right now. And you mentioned the Eagles. Next week's game is another very winnable game. The Eagles are having a tough time of it, and they are not the team that they were when they went to the Super Bowl. And in fact, that Super Bowl season of theirs increasingly looks like an outlier. They're a team who kind of is good enough to get to the playoffs, but is not good enough to get far in the playoffs, even though they still have plenty of talent. There's something on that team that's really not clicking with them as well. And so next week is another game the Giants could definitely win, but after what we saw last night, do you have any confidence that they can actually beat the Eagles? And right now, I don't. Maybe they'll surprise me pleasantly, but they rarely surprise us pleasantly at home, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I don't understand with the Giants is, the primetime thing and the at home thing. But you can tell, Tony, in MetLife Stadium, you can tell that the fans, and John Runyon tried to say last night, oh, we get great support from the fans and we can feel their energy and this and that and the other thing. And John Runyon's a nice guy, but I'm not buying. All right. Because you can feel the edginess all the time. It's when is that shoe going to drop? When is it going to start to fall apart? Because Giants fans have seen it too many times. And there was an undercurrent of that, and there was some booing last night. And, as the game went along, and it's 0-3 at home. I think it's 2-17 in prime time since 2019. I think Jones is 1-14 himself as a starter. And you look at that, and it's no wonder that national football fans and national football writers snicker at the Giants. It's no wonder that they do, because when the nation sees the Giants play small. And that's, and so it's no wonder you can't fight that narrative, because it's the narrative that the Giants gift to the rest of the country.
Yeah. But then you see a game like the Seattle game last week, and you say, oh, they can do that. Why can't they win a damn game at home, right? And
it's so frustrating. But Tony, at least, a couple of good things defensively. The one play, but the Giants were terrific. Azeez Ojulari was terrific. Brian Burns was really good. I thought for the most part, the secondary was pretty good. I'm going to say this. We were talking about it, Nick Volato and I, in the press box last night. We're talking about this. And I'm just going to put it out. I've said this before. As a pure pass rusher, not necessarily as an overall player, but as a pure pass rusher, Azeez Ojulari is better than Kayvon Thibodeau as a
Yeah.
pure straight up pass rusher.
Yep. And to be honest, maybe better than Brian Burns as well. As you say, as a pure pass rusher. I think the problem with Azeez is that the rest of his game is lacking. I mean, in particular, he's always been kind of weak on run support. I don't have a sense
No,
of
you're right.
whether that
You're
was the
right.
case last night, and the running game wasn't that big a part of things anyway. But as a pure pass rusher, at least as a speed rusher, uh, he's a very talented guy, and I was watching last night and I said, wow, this is the Azeez Ojulari of his rookie year that I'm seeing again, and I
Mhm.
thought, wow, this is great, because if you have a rotation of three edge defenders that you can get pressure from any combination of the three, then that's really a plus for your defense, because you can't keep those two guys out there every play. And so if Aziz can really kind of get back to that rookie and second year form, then that's a great thing for them. So that's one promising thing to come out of the game last night.
Yeah, and Aziz, though, very nearly did make the Matthias Kiwanuka Vince Young play.
Mhm.
Very nearly. He said after the game and I don't know if people realize this watching on TV, but he said after the game that he thought he had knocked the ball out. He thought he had knocked the ball out, and he was looking for the football.
Mhm.
And he couldn't believe that he hadn't knocked the ball out. So it
Okay.
wasn't that he was quote unquote letting Burrow go. He thought he had knocked the ball out and he was looking for it on the ground.
Okay. I thought, when I saw it happen, I thought that he was trying to get off Burrow so that he wouldn't land on him as he drove him to the ground, because now the NFL, I understand how the NFL is trying to protect quarterbacks, but that rule of not being able to land on the quarterback as you're sacking him, which Burns did very nicely on his sack of Burrow. He really expertly drove Burrow to the turf while not actually landing on top of him himself. But that rule drives me crazy, because I think it's just very difficult to control your body enough to make sure. But if what he was trying to do was not find a ball that he thought he knocked out, I guess that's a different story. Still, that was a frustrating thing too. Still, I thought he played really well last night.
And the other side, one other guy that I want to talk about before we call it a day, and before I pack up and head for home, get out of this hotel room, is Tyrone Tracy. And look, I gave Tyrone Tracy kudos this morning, and I said, that I think he's a stud, because he is a stud. Look, and I get the fact that, a week ago he had 18 carries for 129 yards and a couple catches and whatever. And his numbers last night pale in comparison to what he did against Seattle. 17 carries, 50 yards, not even 3 yards carry, 5 catches for 57 yards. So 107 yards of total offense. I don't care about the numbers. Watch the plays. Watch the second half. When the Giants were in trouble, when Brian Dable was throwing the kitchen sink in the second half, going for every fourth down pretty much wherever it was on the field. And the Giants, on the one touchdown drive they rode Tyrone Tracy, all the way down the field. He had 10 carries on that drive. I think he had a couple of catches on that drive. But when they needed plays, what tells you everything you need to know is that they rode Tyrone Tracy. They didn't ride Jones. They didn't ride throws to Slayton. They rode getting the ball to Tyrone Tracy and grinding out first downs, even if it was, as I've said before, it was offense by inches for the Giants. It was back to offense by inches, which I've said before, about this team, but it was Tyrone Tracy they were asking to get those inches, and he was doing it. So, I mean, this young man is a player.
Yeah. And you have to remember that he only played 1 year as a running back in college because he's a converted wide receiver. And so for somebody who has that little experience in the game at the running back position, I'm just amazed watching him last night. I mean, he's got this combination of skills. One being that he makes guys miss in traffic, which I don't. I mean, that's a very special skill when you're running in the close quarters that a running back is often running in. And the Giants, even though their offensive line is better, they're still not a great run blocking offensive line. So they're most of the time not opening up big wide holes for their running backs to go through. And Tracy is picking his way through the line, through the narrow holes, and managing to elude tacklers. But then when he is getting hit, he has tremendous contact balance, and he doesn't go down often from the first guy who hits him. And so I look at him and I say, wow, I mean, this guy is still very inexperienced as a running back. And I tell you, I have to guess that when Devin Singletary is healthy again, that he'll still be starting the game for the Giants. But I think we've reached the point where you're going to have a running back by committee with Singletary and Tracy alternating drives for the Giants, because I don't know how you can keep Tracy on the bench.
No, and I will be very disappointed if, to be honest with you, if that committee isn't 70-30, 65-35 in favor of Tracy touching the football. I think he's the best, I think he's the best running back they have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no offense to Devin Singletary, who's been a good player, but I think the player with the big play potential is Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. And Tony, let's just wrap up with this. We ride the roller coaster with this team up and down, and a week ago was great. This week stinks. Up and down, back and forth. But as you mentioned earlier, the Giants host the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. That running back that used to play in MetLife Stadium will be in town for a quick visit. It's yet another opportunity for the New York Football Giants to change the narrative to the positive side for a little while and make themselves relevant. So, I mean, my advice to Giants fans is, relax for a couple days, chill, buckle up, get ready for another crazy roller coaster ride on Sunday. For all I know, now that everybody's down on the Giants again, now they'll put together, the performance that we've all been looking for.
Right. Yeah. I think the best way to predict what the Giants are going to do in any given week is to make your best guess at what they're going to do based on the facts and trends and things like that. And then whatever you come up with, then pick just the opposite of that.
Yeah. I don't know if I've picked a game right this year, Tony. I really don't.
I picked one.
And the problem is I keep picking. Sometimes I look at, okay, the phrase is the worm has to turn at some point, and I keep looking at it and thinking they show enough signs that it has to turn eventually. And I keep thinking, oh, it'll turn against the Cowboys. Oh, this is a great opportunity for it to turn here against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. And I keep waiting for that. And I keep picking, thinking this will be the week. And somehow it's not the week.
Well, the worm does turn. It's just that it turns around and goes back into the hole again.
Oh, jeez.
And that's the problem with this, Steve. It's like you can never get too high because they just can't sustain the good play for more than a week or two at a
No,
time.
they can't.
It's,
All right. Tony, I appreciate it, and I think that's a good place for us to call it a show. For me to pack up the laptop here and head for home. So, Giants fans, thank you as always for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.